Tomorrow, for the first time, the American people are going to see actual bank records that show wire transfers from adversaries around the world into a web of LLCs that were owned or controlled by the Bidens. And then those transfers were made back into the Biden family accounts.
I feel like I'm caught in a web. Congressman James Comer, who's going to be holding a press conference in just a couple of minutes now with other Republicans on Capitol Hill to allegedly lay out all kinds of solid evidence in print, in black and white, on paper, about Biden family corruption and the money being funneled into the coffers of the Biden organized crime family. According to at least one report, a key country involved in all of this is, what is it? Take a guess. Take a stab. Ukraine? Maybe communist China? California? Wait, California's not a country. Not yet. No, Romania. According to at least one news report with, inside information from yet another anonymous source. Just for good measure, I'm going to do the rest of today's show anonymously. So anything you hear on this radio broadcast today, and you're sharing it with anyone later on today or even weeks from now, years from now, you have to say that someone anonymously revealed to you. Because, that's how all information is transmitted in Washington, D.C. and largely in New York as well. Everything is anonymous. It's an amazing situation we're in as a nation. Well, isn't it crazy? Happy Wednesday to you. And hump day, you know what that means in the Clinton household. Come in, get it. It's ring the dinner bell and Hillary Clinton waking up face down in a pool of her own dried vomit in her kitchen floor, one of their many million-dollar mansions, and the Secret Service standing over with their knuckles on their hips, shaking their heads once again. Hillary. What might have been, and thankfully was not. I'm literally signing the cross as we speak. The fact that Hillary didn't become president brings me great joy every time I think of it. And it should bring joy to the entire world, to the planet Earth, to all of humankind. But what goes on in the Clinton household, it's hump day, and Bill Clinton is got to put him on a leash. They shackle him to a radiator, like he's going to turn into a werewolf. Something like that, because he kind of is. And this guy with all his health issues and everything, and still, they got pills for that now. So listen, we've got James Comer, and we're keeping an eye on that with James Comer, Republican, member of the House of Representatives, and many of his colleagues, Byron Donalds and Nancy Mace and others, expected at the microphones any moment now, and we are going to keep our ear to the ground, and we're going to share with you the highlights of that. And I assume that CNN and MSDNC are already attacking him before it begins. You got to undermine a little downfield blocking, preemptive fake news. It's you got to do fake news up front now, because the old-fashioned fake news doesn't cut it anymore. You don't wait until something happens and then put out fake news. You got to put out fake news ahead of time. Then during the event, you put out fake news. And then after it's over, you really fake up the news, because that's their role in our society and in the Democrat Party. So it is, they're starting up on Capitol Hill. Here it is. Sounds just like this.
Domestic and international business practices that we began last Congress. I want to be clear.
Let's be clear.
This committee is investigating President Biden and his family's shady business deals that capitalize on Joe Biden's public office and risked our country's national security.
Encapsulate.
This committee has a duty to ask questions and pursue the facts, no matter where they take us.
That's true.
Through the committee's investigation, we intend to provide transparency to the American people and reach legislative solutions.
Legislative?
In only 4 months since obtaining subpoena authority, we have made astonishing progress.
That's good.
Today, we'll talk about that progress.
That's good. I think he's got.
The committee has learned since our last press conference in November. New information investigators have uncovered regarding the transfer of money from foreign entities to the Biden family.
Yes.
Many of the wire payments occurred while Joe Biden was vice president and leading the United States efforts in these countries.
Right.
First instance.
Countries plural.
While Vice President Biden was lecturing Romania on anti-corruption policy.
Romania, as I said.
In reality, he was a walking billboard for his son and family to collect money.
Right.
Hunter Biden and his associates capitalized on a lucrative financial relationship with a Romanian national who was under investigation for and later convicted of corruption in Romania. The Bidens received over $1 million for the deal. And 16 of the 17 payments to their associates' account that funneled the Biden's money occurred while Joe Biden was vice president. In fact, the money stops flowing from the Romanian national soon after Joe Biden leaves the vice presidency. This is a pattern of influence peddling.
Yes.
This appears separate from any payment Hunter received from his work connecting this individual to a U.S. law firm. We'll also provide further information regarding the Biden's relationship with China. This includes two individuals the committee is particularly concerned about.
Communists.
One of them, Xi Jinping, had close ties to the highest levels of the Chinese Communist Party and operated a multi-billion-dollar energy company with access to large sums of money. We'll discuss how the Bidens received millions of dollars from this individual through the use of shell companies and wire transfers. In March, the committee released its first bank records memorandum that showed a Biden associate, Rob Walker, used his company to funnel money from the Chinese to various Biden family members. Democrats dismissed the evidence, even though it was based on bank records directly from the bank. The Democrats on the Oversight Committee received the same records as the Republicans, and they were able to verify the information. Democrats said all the bank records showed were Papa John's and Starbucks receipts.
Papa John's.
They deliberately chose to misconstrue and deny what was clearly in front of them.
Misconstrue.
Hunter Biden's representatives claimed the money was, quote, good faith seed funds, but could not explain why those funds had to go through an intermediary in what appears to be an attempt to hide the transfers from the Chinese.
Pizzas.
They also couldn't explain why the Bidens received over $1 million in 16 different wire transfers over a period of 3 months to at least 5 different banks. The president, when confronted with this information, said it wasn't true. Instead of being honest with the American people, President Biden has claimed since the 2020 election that his family has not received money from China. That was a lie in 2020, and he continues to lie to the American people now. The Bidens have received millions of dollars from China. It is inconceivable that the president did not know it. The White House refuses to correct the president's statements, showing the president is now using the federal government to run interference for his families and his own role in these schemes.
CNN not carrying
Now I want to say a few remarks about the developments last week. A week ago, I sent a subpoena to the FBI for a form that a whistleblower has alleged is in the FBI's possession.
MS not carrying.
We hope the FBI will be transparent and forthcoming and provide the Oversight Committee with the 1023 form we have subpoenaed. If they do, the committee will assess the form it has subpoenaed from the FBI and has been my practice. We will report to you only facts when they are verified and indisputable. This committee will not pursue witch hunts or string the American people along for years with false promises of evidence that is beyond circumstantial evidence, as Representative Adam Schiff and the Democrats did for years. I trust the whistleblower.
Shiftless.
A subpoena from this committee is a powerful tool that I do not take lightly. The level of detail provided to Senator Grassley led me to conclude a subpoena was warranted, and I stand by that assessment. I will say this. When Senator Grassley approached me with the information the whistleblower provided, it was because of the information we've learned through this committee's own investigation that indicated to me the whistleblower's allegations are consistent with our independent findings. Those findings are what I called you here today to discuss. The committee has reviewed thousands of bank records from individuals and companies affiliated with the Bidens and their associates. It has received these bank records pursuant to 4 subpoenas I've issued to different banks. These were targeted and specific subpoenas, and each was different based on the information we believed the banks possessed. Every one of those subpoenas returned valuable information that had been unreported and that contributed to this committee's understanding of how the Bidens conducted their businesses.
They'll still be unreported.
The committee is concerned by the complicated, suspicious network of over 20 companies we have identified the Bidens and their associates used to enrich themselves. Most of these companies were limited liability companies formed during Joe Biden's vice presidency. The bank records show the Biden family, their associates, and their companies received over $10 million from foreign nationals and their companies.
That's all?
Some of that money came from a Chinese company and went to Hunter Biden's company. Other transfers occurred with the help of Rob Walker, who then sent it on to different Biden family members. This is not how lawful businesses operate. Chinese nationals affiliated with the Bidens created limited liability companies in the United States and then in a short period of time transferred their interest to a Chinese company that sent money to the Bidens. This is not normal.
What?
Hunter Biden and his associates courted business in countries that correlated directly with Joe Biden's work as vice president. This is also not normal. It is not ethical. And this is why we need legislative solutions. Our purpose here is to provide legislative solutions to prevent this unethical behavior from ever happening again. This investigation is about investigating allegations of corruption and fraud at the highest levels of the federal government. This should be a bipartisan issue. This committee is considering legislation that would ensure these sorts of business practices do not continue for Democrats or Republicans.
Should be.
Specifically, the committee is crafting legislative solutions aimed at deficiencies it has identified in ethics laws and disclosure laws for immediate family members of Vice President and the President. These deficiencies potentially place American national security and American interest at risk. Additionally, the committee is considering legislation that would strengthen reporting requirements related to certain foreign transactions involving senior elected officials' family members. Finally, the committee is evaluating the Bank Secrecy Act and anti-money laundering laws to determine whether financial institutions have the available tools and support from federal agencies to thwart illegal money laundering and foreign corruption activity. As I said, I'm very pleased with the progress the committee is making in this investigation. However, due to the information we're releasing today and further developments the committee is aware of, the investigation will enter a new phase now that is armed with information obtained in the bank records. I will soon issue a new round of subpoenas to banks for specific targeted information. I will also provide one more opportunity for certain Biden associates, including his art gallerist and Rob Walker, to cooperate willingly with this investigation. Finally, I am publicly releasing the second bank accounts memorandum to the American people so they can see for themselves the activities the Biden family is engaged in, despite the president's statements to the contrary. I want to thank the people and financial institutions that have cooperated with this investigation so far. I also want to encourage more people to come forward and let them know that their information will be kept private and confidential. To my Democrat colleagues, I want to say that this investigation will continue to move forward.
They'll obstruct it.
Do you want to continue covering up
Yes.
Biden's influence peddling schemes
Yes,
when the evidence is being placed?
That's
right
a rhetorical
in front of
question, of course, because
with or without Democrat support, we will
also,
continue working.
It's being reported to me from out there in the world that CNN is not carrying this. MSNBC is not carrying this. CBS, ABC, and NBC are not carrying this. And Benito Mussolini's definition of fascism is a merger of state and corporate power. Huh. Who knew Benito Mussolini could see into the future? I wonder if he knew that its name would be the Democrat Party. We've got that and crime in the streets. It's up to my ankles. The Democrats looting every place. New York has gone off the rails. Los Angeles, California. Got it for you today. President Trump yesterday. And more lunacy. 888-630-9625.
Hey, what does this job pay?
Nothing.
Don't!
Unless you're crooked.
Woohoo!
Hey, Chris here with some exciting news. Now you can listen to me live on the WMAL app. Doesn't matter if you're in your car, in the office, on the go. The WMAL app delivers crystal clear around-the-clock news coverage anywhere with cell service or Wi-Fi. So don't miss a second of your favorite shows. Download the WMAL app today on the Apple App Store or at Google Play Store. All right, Congressman James Comer introducing the press conference, and if it were me, I'd come up with I'd hold up a document and I'd say, here is Exhibit A and the first crime that we will outline today. Violations of law. We have the documents right here. And as I said, CNN ignoring it. MSNBC, the NBC offshoot, ignoring it. ABC, CBS, NBC, thus far ignoring it. When they finally get around to it, they will attack it because that's the role that they play in our society. Judgment Day, Congressman Comer said. And then in his opening statement, he's talking about legislative solutions. Got to release the Kraken, my friend. Got to slap it on the table. Got to be a bombshell. You got to open with your strongest stuff. $1 million. He did start with, he's got $1 million from Romania. Romania? Why Romania? The Biden family taking in $1 million from Romania. $1 million a year from Ukraine and the Burisma gas company. Talking about 20 companies that had been set up, a lot of LLCs, limited liability corporations. He said it's complicated. Talked about $10 million coming in from China while he was vice president, 17 different transfers. Rob Walker, which we had heard about before, but if he's got more meat to add to the bone, then that is very good. Very, very good. And talking about 5 banks, $1 million coming in over the course of months. China, Romania, we already know about Ukraine, and I didn't know about Romania before I started reading about it this morning. Now, did he come out and it's tough business. It's tough business, but I'd like to write the opening statements for them and go with the strongest lead and make it unavoidable for the Democrat-owned and operated corporate media, which has merged, in effect, with the Democrat Party, fulfilling Benito Mussolini's definition of what he believed fascism to be. I think he was an authority on the subject. These are remarkable times, and we will share more with you throughout the course of the morning. Stay there. All right, so House Oversight Committee Chairman and other members of the committee laid out that they have the documents, the bank records showing $1 million, Dr. Evil, flowed from a crooked Romanian businessman and oligarch there to the Biden family while Joe Biden was vice president. And ironically and absurdly, Joe Biden was in Romania lecturing them about corruption at the time. And James Comer at the press conference is building on what we already knew and adding to it and bringing documents to light showing that Hunter Biden, the crackhead stripper knocker-upper, Russian hooker dater, and he was very nice to them, though. See, any bruises on you? See, I gave you $10,000 and I didn't even beat you up, which makes him a good guy to his way of thinking. Set the bar low enough and we can all be impressed with ourselves, I guess. And the dodgy associates in countries where his father held sway, the New York Post wrote this morning. In a 36-page memo, the committee, releasing the memo this morning, cited they subpoenaed bank records to describe how $3 million was allegedly transferred from a Romanian businessman, Gabriel Popoviciu, and his Blandon Enterprises Limited to Robinson Walker LLC, which was controlled by Hunter Biden's business partner, Rob Walker. And these transfers of $3 million took place between 2015 and 2017. Now, let me, what was their business? What service were they providing to this Romanian billionaire? That is question number one. Of the $3 million, the memo says, roughly one-third, $1,038,000 plus, was transferred to bank accounts belonging to Hunter Biden. God, it's good to be a Biden, isn't it? To first daughter-in-law Hallie Biden and to an unnamed Biden family member. How can you still have unnamed Biden family members? You got the bank records, but the procedure mirrors a similar division of roughly $3 million in early 2017 from the Chinese firm with ties to the Chinese Communist Party known as CEFC. That's a Chinese energy company. Hunter Biden's got his fingers in a lot of energy companies, in Romania, in Ukraine and in China. Does he have any background in the energy industry and natural gas? And no. And then mysteriously, those Nord Stream pipelines blow up deep beneath the sea. Might that have anything to do with anything? It's, we're living in very mysterious times. Everything's becoming more and more like a bad Hollywood movie, like a knockoff of a Tom Clancy story. Crazy. So CEFC back in the news, now Romania in the news. We know about Ukraine. Millions and millions of dollars flowing into the Biden family coffers. And Hallie Biden, where's the, what's her name, Ashley Biden? The one who left her diary in the drug rehab halfway house, and then everybody got thrown in jail for finding it. Remember that? That's a little third world. Delete a little. That's awfully, terribly third world. Completely crazy. Yeah, so the CEFC money, $3 million. A third of that shared among Hunter Biden, Hallie Biden, first brother James Biden, and a fourth, as yet unidentified member of the Biden family, according to the Oversight Committee memo from March. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. And none of this strikes the people of the New York Times or CNN as being interesting at all. It's good to be a Democrat, isn't it? You bet your bottom dollar. All right, let's take a phone call and more. And I've got a lot more for you today too, because not just Biden family corruption and some details being laid out by the House Oversight Committee. We had this President Trump jury in New York award a woman who can't remember exactly what year she met Donald Trump in a dressing room at Bergdorf Goodman, where she said, well, that's just completely crazy. But, once again, remember Dr. Christine Blasey Ford couldn't remember what year it was either. So long ago. In this case, it was the 1990s, and she says, but if she can't tell you what year it is, well, why would you take her word for what decade it was? And it's kind of crazy. The jury said, well, we don't really believe you, but we'll give you a bunch of money anyway because we hate Trump. And it looks like that's what happened, and the verdict will be appealed. And according to lots of smart lawyers on the topic, there may be a jury nullification opportunity in this one. So we've got, there we go. Also, the crazy person that was killed in a choking incident on a New York City subway train the other day. Just amazing stuff. A New York Times writer says anybody who is concerned about the crazy people on the subway should get therapy, because you should just get used to it. You should get used to transgender twerking in your first grader's face in school, and you should get used to mentally ill, drug-crazed lunatics screaming in your grandmother's face on New York City streets and on New York City subways. And if you take issue with that, then you're the one that should get therapy. This is the societal sock pulled inside out, isn't it? Yes, it is. Just crazy. And in New York City, the crime continues to go wild. They've got a solution for one thing. It's a typical incredibly dumb solution. And then the business owners there are asking for emergency intervention because they're being robbed blind. And the Democrats just do it right in front of you now. They just growl at you and threaten you. Say, I'm a mad, crazed criminal thief. And the implied threat is, of course, that they're going to bash your brains in, which, by the way, this guy killed in the subway did to a 67-year-old woman. And there was a warrant out for him at the time of the incident on the subway. But he's the hero of the story because the Democrat Party really is the grown-up mentally ill person here. The guy in the subway train is just the baby mentally ill person. The Democrat Party is the protective shield for all of the crazy, mentally ill, drug-addled lunatics roaming the streets of the United States of America, and they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Also, did you see this? Joni loves Chachi, Scott Baio. Is it Baio or Baio? Baio? Baio. And he's fleeing California because of all of the crazy people literally, I can't. His wife and his kid can't go to the mall, and it's California. It's nothing but malls. Can't go to the mall. Too dangerous. And he talks about the feces and the homeless people, because this is what the Democrats are turning the country into, every city in America. And I got to tell you, we just came out of an era, a great economic era, where the cities were unbelievably great. Washington, New York, Chicago, really at high points for years and years and years. And then these really left-wing Democrats took over. And now they're all mental asylums, and nobody's safe. Again, in Washington, D.C., what was it, between 2021 and 2022 in Washington, D.C., carjackings tripled. And now this year, 2023, they're skyrocketing again, already up like 30 or 40% in the first few months. In Washington, D.C., so far this year, as of last Saturday, we've had, according to the Washington Post, 244 carjackings so far this year in Washington, D.C., a city that is 61 square miles. That is 4 carjackings per square mile in less than half a year. Less than half a year. And nobody says a word about it. The media doesn't cover it. The Washington Post had it buried in a story on page 19 and paragraph number 44. Oh, yeah, by the way, carjackings skyrocketing. 244 so far this year. I had to do the math. That's 4 per square mile. So by the end of the year, it should be at least 9 per square mile. Carjackings, mostly involving guns, naturally. And when you say, hey, we should do something about that, they call you a racist and scream at you and tell you need therapy. No, that's the wrong answer. But thank you for your mentally ill input. Pretty amazing stuff. Yes, sir. We got an update out of Loudoun County Schools in Virginia, too. A lot of psychopaths there as well, threatening normal people because it's normal that is under attack. No doubt about it. Yeah, we got a little Robert De Niro, a little Kamala Harris. We got all kinds of stuff. Let's go to the telephones right now, Michael. Let's go to Chris, calling from Marshall, Virginia. Chris, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Well, thank you, sir. Actually, I am the Dundalk Debonair today. I am not Chris from Marshall, and you'll understand why in a moment. Because if the Dundalk Debonair theory is correct, you'll understand why I don't want to be identified. I don't think that. Let me give you a scenario. You got somebody whose husband dies a tragic death. She's got a universe of men to choose from, and she selects her active crackhead brother-in-law to shack up with. Why? I posit that Haley and Dr. Not a Dr. Jill are the henchmen, the ringleaders of the entire Biden crime family. When did Joe meet Dr. Not a Doctor? She was his nanny at the time. These women have the utmost, highest standards in society and morals. And I don't think that we've kind of pointed a little bitty microscope at the married-in, the in-laws, the wives.
Well, it's definitely an abnormal family in a whole bunch of ways. Ashley Biden in the drug rehab left her diary filled with all kinds of crazy stuff about how she became a drug addict and a sex addict, and she blames her
if
father.
If name was Trump, can you imagine the outrage?
It would
They would be building new wings on the Sing Sing.
Yeah, and they'd be burning our cities down and, of course, looting pretty much every place, which that's a normal reaction.
They're already doing that.
Yeah, they are. Our country is being looted now by individuals rather than mobs for the most part, and we're being looted in slow motion. And the new lockdown, Chris, not in Marshall. The new lockdown is what's happening in our stores across the country, where everything is being put behind plexiglass and cages and locks, and you have to go get a terrified employee to get you shaving cream because the Democrats have turned the entire country into a work-free drug place where looting is king. And, we've had Democrat members of Congress call it reparations. And they pass laws where you can steal more than $900 worth of stuff from a store and walk out, and they promise to not prosecute you, which, of course, incites more of that. And they threaten the police with jail if you attempt to enforce the laws. Therefore, the enforcement of laws scaled back very significantly because that's the only rational response by law enforcement. The war on law enforcement, the war on business owners, businesses big and small, has led to, just look at San Francisco, Walgreens leaving, CVS leaving, Nordstrom leaving, Whole Foods leaving. They're fleeing. They're going to turn the place into a pre-Columbian. I assume they're going to turn the electricity off one of these days in the city of San Francisco. And it's happening all over the country. People keep pointing to San Francisco, and that's right. But go into stores in Washington, D.C., and ask them when the last time is that they were looted by strong-arm thugs that come in and rob the place. They come in with empty bags, they leave with full bags, and they menace you and they threaten you. They don't even have to flash the gun. They just threaten you. And in D.C. recently, we had the thugs going from CVS to CVS, right, with bags and just cleaning the shelves out, filling their bags, filling their car with all of their stolen loot. And in New York, when the recently retired NYPD officer who was hired as a security officer at the Walgreens, he attempted to stop the thief. He got clubbed over the head for it. And when he held the thief and now committed an assault against a man, when he held the criminal to the ground, the cops came and they arrested the security guard and put him in a jail cell. Now, that is the end of civil society. That's the end of civilization. And the Democrats are implementing this across the country in city after city. And again, I told the story about going into my eye doctor place and the terrified women in there quivering had to unlock the door to let us in and told us about the Democrat thugs coming in and grabbing everything they want and heading for the exits. And they're so afraid. What are they supposed to do? And the nice lady told us that all their stores in the area have had this happen repeatedly. And the CVS on the corner had just been looted in the last week. And this is all perfectly normal. And the Washington Post doesn't report it. And the news media doesn't report it. They don't cover it because this is now normal. And the crazy people on the subway, if you've got an issue with that, the New York Times says you need therapy. What do we do about this? Now, Congressman Comer announced that he would be holding this press conference at 9 a.m. Eastern Time today. And apparently, Joe Biden's Justice Department noticed and decided to pay attention because this morning they announced the arrest of a Republican member of Congress, George Santos, the Republican from New York, the 3rd Congressional District in New York. The Wall Street Journal story, Representative George Santos faces charges of embezzlement, fraudulently obtaining unemployment benefits, and lying on disclosure forms. Didn't Hunter Biden lie on that form to get his gun when they asked about his drug history, and he lied about it, and then he got a gun, and then you remember his brother's widow, who he was having sex with at the time, keep it classy, Biden family, took his gun and threw it in the dumpster behind their high-end grocery store, as the media described it. Why would they shop at a low-end grocery store? They got millions coming in from China and Romania and Ukraine and Russia, and not going to go to Piggly Wiggly, are they? And, by the way, Hunter Biden he was not only having sex with his brother's widow, Hallie Biden, he was also having sex with her sister. Not necessarily at the same time. I don't know if it was like a threesome situation. But back to this, because Joe Biden's Justice Department, Merrick Garland's Justice Department, we should take down that thing with the scales of justice, shouldn't we? At least for the time being, till we can reestablish that. Equal justice under law. We should put a black, what would you call it? We should put black bunting over the entrance to the Supreme Court. Equal justice under law. Any place we show the scales of justice in Washington, they should be draped in black for this era in American history. Wall Street Journal, Representative George Santos faces embezzlement, fraudulently obtaining unemployment benefits, and lying on disclosure forms, just like Hunter Biden. He surrendered to authorities. He is now under arrest, the Republican congressman. This gives CNN and MSNBC something to talk about, and just in time. It's already making news all over the world. The Guardian, George Santos in custody after surrendering to federal charges. You don't surrender to federal charges, you surrender to federal authorities based on charges, but everyone's illiterate, particularly in journalism these days. Surrendering to federal charges related to election violations, Santos has been charged with wire fraud, money laundering, theft of public funds, making materially false statements to the House of Representatives. And now he's in shackles. I assume they put him in ankle shackles like they do all Republicans. And he'll probably be thrown in the D.C. jail with no bail and be left with no lawyer, not allowed to communicate, like January 6th. So there it is. That's your Department of Justice in the age of Joe Biden. And it looks like he may have done a lot of this stuff, but once again, the timing has got to be seen as being more than a little bit curious, a little bit suspicious even. But who am I to judge?